In Deloitte's most recent Finance Trends Report, we surveyed 1,300 global leaders from finance and CFOs across the globe. And one of the things that they indicated was the organization's desire that the CFO's office play a greater role in being a strategist to the organization. To achieve that, it requires greater amounts of scenario planning and greater amounts of insights, certainly around macroeconomic impacts. What are you seeing organizations look at in terms of the things that are affecting their planning capabilities?
Well, organizations now are facing a higher degree of uncertainty in the economic environment than is usually the case. So for one example is the trade environment. We've seen a significant change in U.S. trade policy and changes in trade patterns. And the biggest issue, at least immediately, is the uncertainty over it. So what we've seen just this year alone in the last 10 months is that the average U.S. tariff rate started very low, it went up, it went down, it went up again. And even today, after all that and after various trade deals have been reached, there is still uncertainty about where the trade regime will wind up in the future. And many business leaders have asked me, when is the dust going to settle? And my answer is, I'm not sure it's going to settle anytime soon. I think there's still uncertainty, and there are two issues in particular. One is the fact that the Supreme Court will soon issue a ruling about the legality of some of the tariffs. Now, if they decide that those tariffs are illegal, it's likely that the administration will pivot away from country-specific tariffs toward more product-specific tariffs. There would likely then be still very high tariffs, but it would be a different mix of tariffs that would affect different companies in different ways. And it's hard for companies to plan not knowing what that's going to look like. The other issue of trade uncertainty concerns the USMCA, or U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, which is a free trade agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. It is set to be renegotiated next year. And at this point, we don't know how that will evolve. And there are many large companies that have long-term, highly integrated, very efficient supply chains across all three countries. And if the trading regime between those three countries changes significantly, they may have to invest in supply chain redesign. But at this point, there's evidence that they're postponing those decisions until the dust settles.
So many rapid changes impacting organizations for them to get their hands around. Another response in the survey was organizations are striving to have greater agility for doing advanced scenario planning. What are you seeing around that?
Well, a number of clients have asked me, how do you make decisions in the context of a high degree of uncertainty? And one of my answers is that it makes sense to engage in scenario planning. That is to map out 3 or 4 plausible scenarios about what might happen and figure out how you would respond to that. Now, of course, it might be the case that none of those scenarios will actually happen, but just the act of engaging in that planning makes a company better prepared to respond when something actually happens. It's like General Eisenhower once said, plans are worthless, but planning is everything.
That's a great observation. And organizations that are trying to situate themselves to have the muscles and the capabilities to drive organizational strategy have to take on multiple initiatives. Read more about those items in our Finance Trends Report.